Meanwhile, last night in the Copa America, we saw the US kick off the campaign with a win against a poor Bolivia team with goals from Christian Pulisic and Balogun. For more on that game, let's go out to LA and the guys.
Thank you very much, Dan. U.S. second in Group C on goals scored after their 2-0 victory over Bolivia on Sunday. But it wasn't all good news for the Americans, guys. Weston McKennie drawing a lot of criticism for his performance. Herc, how'd you think he played?
Yeah, on par with how he played against Colombia and how he played against Brazil. It wasn't the same, the usual Weston McKennie, his energetic self, box-to-box, making his presence felt on either side of the ball. He looked lackadaisical. He looked like he was rarely involved. Quite frankly, he looked like he didn't want to be there, disinterested. It wasn't his best outing.
Ale?
I mean, I suppose we could dance around it, but why dance around it when we can actually talk about it? In my opinion, he doesn't look in his maximum, optimal physical condition. I'm looking at a guy who, when he is at his best, there's a lot of energy and intensity to the game. And he adds that energy, intensity, and sometimes urgency into the attacking half. A presence into the attacking 18-yard box. A guy who will win challenges in the final third and who will help counter-press when the United States lose possession of the ball. We're not seeing a lot of that from Weston McKennie. And frankly, is it a bad game? Is it a good game for him? I don't know that Bolivia, in fact, I know that Bolivia is not the measuring stick and it shouldn't be the barometer for any performance by the United States, individual or as a group. But it would be an opportunity for somebody who perhaps hasn't been playing all that well to gain some confidence and to show to himself, much more so than to us, but to himself that, yeah, I have confidence. Yeah, I'm playing well. Yeah, I'm completing passes. Yeah, I'm a presence in the attacking half. And we just didn't see that consistently from him.
Some people looking at his form might say, well, this has to do with his situation at club. It seems like Juventus doesn't really want him anymore. There's been this reported offer from Major League Soccer in Cincinnati. What do you think his level is at the club game?
Well, it's certainly not Major League Soccer. It's beyond Major League Soccer. You shouldn't be thinking about that right now at his age with the World Cup looming ahead of himself. Listen, the quality is there. You've seen he had a career year at Juventus. He added statistics like assists to his game. He proved himself when in the preseason roster for Juventus here in the States. He wasn't even included in that roster, works his way back onto the team, proves himself to Maxi Allegri in that squad, a vital piece, had a career year for Juventus. But I know the Weston McKennie camp is not happy, and they publicly made that claim. His father, Weston McKennie, they want a new contract. They think they deserve more money. Juventus right now, they're in dire financial situation. It's not the case. They're looking to sell him. They want him out, not because they can't use a player of his services, but they don't want to pay for a player of his services. That can affect you. That affects a player. What your future will be certainly affects you. But this is a national team. And certainly Weston McKennie is an important player for this national team. And you see the quality that is there. Versus Bolivia, he had to play a give and go with Timothy Weah, where Timothy Weah backheels it, and he gives it right back to Timothy Weah, and it ends up being a goal that Florian Balogun scores. That's rightfully called back for an offside. But you see the quality in between the lines, but it's the consistency. And Ali's right. He's a player that just oozes intensity about him on both sides of the ball, and he makes his presence felt when he's on the field. That's not been the case not only versus Bolivia, but the two previous games as well.
If you were advising him, Ale, where would you send him? He reportedly had an offer on the table from Aston Villa, turned it down over money.
Well, that would be a good place, actually.
Great place.
And so if indeed that those reports are true, then I think that's a mistake. I don't believe that it would be best for him to come back to Major League Soccer, not necessarily because of what I may think or may not think of the level of Major League Soccer, but I just believe that he is in a point in his career where he's got to be thinking a different picture and a different reality. I wasn't nearly as critical when players were coming back to MLS and taking the money, because at that point, that money was life-changing for a lot of those guys, say Clint Dempsey, or even a guy like Michael Bradley. But they were later in their career, at a later point in their career. I think Weston McKennie right now is in the middle of it and should be considering where he is going to be able to generate momentum going forward towards the long term. I don't believe coming to Major League Soccer would be a step forward. And again, it's not a knock on Major League Soccer as much as it is, I believe that Weston McKennie's market is somewhere else.
Really quickly, just an Aston Villa would have been an amazing place with a coach like Unai Emery, who's done wonders for that midfield, and certainly players like, I look at a Leon Bailey that we know here very well in CONCACAF, who his best version was probably behind him at Leverkusen, comes to the Premier League, to Aston Villa, and what he was able to accomplish, a career year, double-digit goals and assists under Unai Emery, and what a coach like that can do for a player going forward in what is now a Champions League Premier League team in Aston Villa. That would be a great place for him.
All right, let's bring it back to the national team. So second in the group, winning their first game over Bolivia. Uruguay winning their opener against Panama by a final score of 3-1. Ale, how much more of a challenge for the U.S. do you think Panama will be than Bolivia?
Well, I think it's going to be a different challenge altogether. Bolivia was not. And honestly, the United States play that game in the second half with the intensity that you would play in a training exercise. And it's what the game demanded. It didn't demand much more than that. And I do think that they're going to be challenged physically by Panama. Panama will compete, and they showed enough against Uruguay in moments in which actually they were pushing Uruguay back, that Panama can hurt you. They will, and to the surprise of many, they will press you higher up the field if you allow that to happen. And for a team like the United States that likes to pass the ball around, sideways and back, we're going to build out of the back. What is the one thing that we've talked about the United States when they're playing out of the back? That I don't think they have the personnel to do that consistently. Why? Because they turn the ball over a lot of the time playing out of the back. And you have a team that is willing to press you higher up the field. And now you're turning the ball over in bad areas. It's trouble for the United States. So they have to be close to their best in order to make sure that they get the 3 points against Panama.
Quickly on Uruguay, do we see any weaknesses there that maybe the U.S. can take advantage of the group phase finale? Because that could be critical for seeding as we get to the knockout rounds.
Yeah, if you can bypass that press, the intensity, there are gaps to attack Uruguay in transition. They leave themselves very vulnerable in the back, 1v1 situations. The U.S. men's national team or any team with pace can exploit that, but you have to bypass that pressure and play with that intensity, because you know when it comes to Marcelo Bielsa, there is no plan B. He's going to continue to play that way all the time. So yeah, there are some weaknesses with Uruguay, especially with how vulnerable they can be in the back in those 1v1 situations.
If I'm the United States, I get the job done against Panama first and foremost. You cannot depend on having to get points against Uruguay in that last game, because if I just said that Panama can press you higher up the field and cause you problems, Uruguay do that much better than Panama. So let's not bank on the 3 points against Uruguay and hope that you need to get those points in the end. Concern yourself with Panama and then worry about Uruguay when the time comes.
To Ali's earlier comment about the U.S. men's national team having problems playing out of the back consistently, this game will be played Mercedes-Benz, in Atlanta, Georgia, and that field presented tons of problems for Argentina and Canada. Who knows what condition that field will be in? Not necessarily optimum level to trying to play it out of the back.